Hi, welcome to my channel and welcome to 2024. Well, we just celebrated the Heaven a few days ago and we're still in these high spirits of hope and optimism for the future. And we tend to, I think, in these early days of January, still think of ourselves and our plans that we made in December. And if you haven't checked my last week's video on how to plan with astrology, make sure you do, as it's a game changer. So you plan accordingly, very effectively, aligned with what you are anyway being lined up for. So we'd made plans, and it's still early days for us to get disillusioned or disheartened or demotivated about those plans. So we're still in this space of feeling like very confident about our successes, and that's fantastic. And next week I'll be talking about the winter blues, or otherwise known also as depression, and all that. All these themes are very Capricornian, which is what I tend to do with my videos, make them kind of seasonal. But before then, but today, so the early days of January, while we're still optimistic and confident, I want to draw your attention to where you could be potentially making errors, so that further down the line you don't make them if you maybe check with your astrology. So success is found, or rather our own version of success is found in three areas of our chart. Midheaven, 10th house, which can sometimes be the same thing. Your midheaven can be in your 10th house, and because I only work with whole sign houses, that's why I make them different. I had them in different places, so a lot of people have. You can have them all over your chart, like MC, and then 10th house is always 10th house, and there's Saturn. So those are three areas in your chart which will tell you about what your version of success means to you and looks like. Because if you think about, I'm sure you can think of examples in your life, unless you're very young, but if you're anything like me, age-wise, then I'm sure you have plenty of examples where you thought something was going to give you a sense of success and therefore satisfaction and sense of accomplishment and feel good and all that, and you'd feel good about it, only to find out that either halfway through you just realize it really wasn't for you, or you arrive at that place and it's really not what you thought it was. It has happened to me so many times, until I started to work with astrology more deeply and to start to understand what is success for me. What is my sense of where does my sense of accomplishments, achievement, satisfaction lie? How can I be sure of that? What that is. I also remember so many times I would do those, like when like a coaching session with myself, I mean not with anyone in particular, where I'm like asking myself, so what does successful life mean to me? And it has never ever ever included either money or career, like some kind of certainly not corporate world career, which are typically associated with success because those are Capricornian themes. They belong to Capricorn as an archetype. So, and Capricorn in the natural zodiac, in the way that signs are aligned, and sequence of them is natural, like Aries and then ending with Pisces, right? Capricorn is the 10th house, and those are money, as in success in terms of status, recognition, also money, I suppose, which is kind of not archetype of Capricorn. Money is the Scorpio archetype, really, and also Taurus. Well, no, Taurus is really resources, which money can be, but money is really Scorpio. Anyway, so but because we in our world, having money gives you status and gives you power and gives you, which is why it's Scorpio, right? But it kind of makes you in that prominent position publicly to serve the public, or exploit the public if it's capitalism, or certainly some form of capitalism is like that, exploitative, right? So that's why we all kind of generically associate success with those categories and those criteria. But sadly, our own uniquely our own, like what makes what you are designed, what you are meant to succeed at, and more importantly, what you are meant to feel deep sense of accomplishment, satisfaction, pride when accomplishing, when doing, when completing, when achieving, is far more often than not different to what I just described. And yet we all, well, you know, most of us, or certainly most of us, a considerable amount of time has spent pursuing goals and criteria of success that isn't ours, uniquely ours. And so those three areas in our chart will tell us what, like the combination of three will tell us where this sense of great sense of mastery and accomplishment lies, for us to feel like we have achieved it, like we know we have reached our peak, our pinnacle. Pinnacle is the same thing. So I'm starting in one order because in my chart that's how they go. So bear with me. You know, it doesn't really matter. So I'll start with the MC. So MC, medium coeli, which means midheaven, is don't, like I always say, I'm not really astronomically versed. I always check astronomy when I need to, you know, but I never remember it. So I wouldn't worry about it, you know, but it's basically where the midheaven is, astronomically speaking. And so if you work in with whole sign houses, then you'll find more often than not, at least I seem to have those people around me. I think it's very common to have midheaven somewhere else other than in the 10th house. So wherever you have it, so let's say I have it in 9th, you can have it in 8th, you can have it in 7th, depending where you're born. So if you're born at the pole end of the earth, like either south or north, those extremes, I had a client once who was from North Canada, and a student rather, and she had it in 8th and 2nd, or was even 1st and 7th. Yeah, something like that, close to at least, or something. In fact, maybe it was 1st and 7th. Anyway, so it's possible. So it can be, and that's what's so wonderful. That's why I prefer to work with whole sign houses. And so midheaven is the kind of the highest point, something in the sky, literal, astronomical, physical, atmospheric skyline. So it is the highest point in where you were born, somewhere on this planet Earth, a location, right, a certain time, and that where your MC is the highest point in the sky above you. But it's really just specific to that moment of time and place, right? Therefore, to you rather, sorry. And whoever was born around the same time, right, in the same location and all that stuff, right? So it's very kind of narrow in terms of its specificity and uniqueness to you. And then you obviously can have some planets that are conjuncted and all the squaring oppositions and all that, right? You have obviously IC opposite, but I'm not going to talk about IC because that's, I mean, we always say that in astrology, I always say that it's ultimately about integrating the opposite, and that's true. But yeah, that would be far longer video, so I'm just sticking to the 3 points. So what is MC in the astrologically speaking and archetypally, symbolically? And this is how I distinguish it from the 10th house. So MC is really only your very own personal sense of mission. So it's what you feel it's your mission. Like that's where you are, like you are on your path to, like, mission is a good one because it does require completion. It's like a task of sorts, but it's also an adventure in a way. It's like, it's a sense of chasing your own holy grail, or the treasure at the end of the rainbow. That's another expression, isn't it? But there is that sense of like it's a journey. I mean, it's also an actual axis. So whenever there is an axis like so clear, like with the nodes, but here with the IC and MC, it's like literal axis, because all the other things are not as an axis as such, like in that such precise line way, like these two, like I said, nodes, but also IC and MC. There is always that sense of trajectory, like a journey, like you're going from one point to another. So there's like a path, literal drawn path. And so my point there is that your MC, that direction, it almost kind of has a sense of Sagittarius in it. It's like in that direction, for as long as you are going in that direction, you are satisfying yourself. Like there is something that it's satisfying. It's giving you, it's nourishing you, it's for you basically. It does not need to meet anyone else's needs. It does not need to meet anyone else's expectations, plans for you, requirements, all the stuff. Like, it's purely for you, right? Where 10th house, and now if you have this the same, then forget about the MC, or rather not forget, but then your personal mission is identical to something else. So 10th house, by difference, is what others require from you. But that is one area that what others require from you will be something that will give you a greater sense of accomplishment. You see the difference? So the MC, if it's in the 10th house, you are lucky. Therefore, whatever is there for you, you're doing it for yourself purely, will actually, and there is a quality difference between doing something that is purely for you and finding satisfaction in that, and then doing something for someone else that does, once it's out and given and received, give you a sense of satisfaction, but it's almost like a delayed reaction, where this is far more immediate. So it's easier. In other words, what I'm saying, MC is easier to follow. It kind of, you probably are doing it if you consider where your MC is sign, planet, sign, any conjunct planet, and obviously the house. Then you'll find that you're probably in that direction, going daily, whatever, hourly, monthly, whatever. You know, it's like there are no obstacles. Of course, you'll have squares to it, so there will be some obstacles and all that stuff, right? And there is a sense of being that it's opposite, the furthest away from IC, where IC is like where we are safe, where we feel rooted, where we feel, familiar and all that. So it's, in a way, it is like a hero's journey, like we're going into the unknown, but it's like going on an adventure where there is no, like I said, there isn't really a danger. That's the best I can explain it. You might have some adversaries, but they're not like I say, the squares or the transits, obviously. But you are equipped with everything you have. Your sense of confidence that you can handle whatever comes your way is solid, because, like I say, it's meant to be your own mission. It's like you don't depend on anyone else. The moment you depend on someone else, then you can feel like your confidence is lacking and waning, because can you rely on someone else? Can they do that job that they need to do for you in order for you to do what you need to do, right? So in MC, with MC, it's just you and that direction. And whatever comes your way, you know in your bones, in your cells, that you don't need anyone. That you will, whatever you need, you got. That's my point. In the 10th house, it's still coming from you, because you're the one who has it. And in some way, the ease is there because you may know that it's coming, the others also want it. You may be clear on that. That will depend on the sign. So maybe if it's Cancer, you have in your 10th house, then the feeling of being needed will be clear, and that will give you confidence, and that will make it easier. But if you have signs that are less, that they don't spell out that you are needed, or that that's wanted or that's desired or something, then you might struggle with that sense of, I have this gift. I know you will also know that whatever your 10th house is what the world needs from you, right? And the world needs the world, whether that's your, immediate surround. Well, no, it would be, sorry, I actually should really qualify this. It's not just any world. 10th house is, it's the people you don't know. So it could be like my YouTube channel, although that could be also 11th house. But actually, no, I would say that the 11th house is when one day, when this channel grows big enough, I'll have a community that will be, a little microcosm around my channel of people who are like-minded. That would be my 11th house. But at the moment, I don't know any of you. I mean, I'm in connection with you, in exchange, in the comments, and I'm grateful for that. And but it's ultimately, I don't know you. And probably there are many more people I can see the views and all that are watching. I have never seen or commented or exchanged anything with. So that's the 10th house. So there is that sense of detachment. There is that sense of like you are. That's why 10th house in the zodiac, irrespective of MC, is the zodiac's highest point. And when it's the highest point, you're kind of furthest away from everything else. So that's why Capricorn is a loner, alone sign, Capricorn's archetype of solitude, of aloneness, even loneliness in a shadow expression. So this sense of whatever it is that you're doing in your 10th house, whatever gifts your 10th house have, as in you have, right, are needed by the world. But you may or may not know that, and that may or may not make it easy to kind of share them and spread them out. So bear that in mind when you are sharing your 10th house gifts. But the beauty is that obviously that it's needed, so you will get feedback. Where with the MC, there's no feedback but it's at the same time you don't need feedback because it's enough for you to feel it, and in fact there is a sense of greater freedom when you don't need to, whatever it is that you're doing, it's really for your own self satisfaction, right? Where with the 10th house, it does depend on how it's received. So you will be reliant and dependent on the reception of your gifts, and when you are in your 10th house, so in some public like this, so if you have a YouTube channel and whatever you're doing, it's not really delivering, it could be because you're really off the mark with your 10th house gifts. Early days YouTube, for instance, because you're building the wrong thing. You're building the 10th house of your own isn't really your actual 10th house. Your YouTube channel is an attempt to be in your 10th house, right? Or just any equivalent to that, any platform on social media, or careers or jobs, and if you're not happy, or if you're not, you just are either not receiving the right feedback or the right compensation, then you're not in your 10th house. You're not actually offering the gifts of your 10th house. And I will be talking about that because there will be another change to this channel coming up soon. As I'm refining and fine-tuning my 10th house, as Pluto is going to be entering it sometime next year, this year, 2024. So you see the difference between the 10th house and the MC. And if they're together, like I say, then it's just easy. It's like you're doing it for yourself, but it's also doing it for others as well. And it is really an easier setup to have. So far, those two areas of your chart. So can you see already you're having so these are at least two different signs, obviously two different houses. Well, sorry, maybe not two different houses, and maybe not two different signs actually, sorry. But it could be already four different things to consider, to like qualities to your own personal sense of success. And they may well be very different. So in a way, this is not just a business. Although your 10th house will always be a public service. It will always be something you can offer to the world that the world wants and needs from you. And therefore there is that compensation for time and money, because it's one of you giving it to many, and then and you get, well, any kind of transaction really would require money, but yeah. So 10th house often translates into having your own business or being compensated financially for what you're doing. Where in your MC, unless it is in the 10th house, not necessarily. Although it could be if it's in the 8th house, right? Again, and all the rest. You get the idea. But what I was ultimately saying, and I'm going to move on to the third piece, which is Saturn. So already we potentially could have four different flavors to our sense of success, and potentially two at least different lines of work or activity that we are performing on daily basis, or weekly or monthly or whatever, right? That both, and they're not maybe overlapping at all, but both are giving us that sense of satisfaction, because we are succeeding in it, because we are aligned with both of them. So if you are struggling to feel like you're successful in your life, then spend some time with your MC and your 10th house and your Saturn. So Saturn could be in your 10th house on your MC, and then this will be even easier. And I know few people, yeah, I am jealous sometimes of them, who have that, and it's kind of like, it's almost like a tunnel vision. I can promise you that it's a tunnel vision kind of energy, because it's all in one, it's like a funnel, like it's all going in one direction. But if you have, like me, in three different areas, then, and with some other points attached to them and whatever different planets, it just gets kind of dispersed, and therefore you can feel to the outside world like you're being unsuccessful, hello, but really in other ways that are less maybe visible, or even less synthesized and made coherent for the outsider looking in, it looks like you're not, but actually you may be doing things aligned with these three aspects of your chart. Or more importantly, when you're doing it and it's so dispersed, you will be satisfied, but the world might not see it as a coherent picture. It's just like you're this success in this one big thing. Because 10th house, like again in my case, when you have nothing there of any planets, or you have an asteroid there, but it doesn't matter. My point is, if you have an empty, let's say 10th house, then you follow the ruler where the ruler is, and that's essentially where the activities that will eventually, maybe bring something into your 10th house, but it's ultimately the energy is elsewhere. Meaning that you're not really either bothered by having a career, being public servant, being public, like a YouTube channel, or for your services, whatever it is that you do, right? When you have an empty house. And I, again, studied this and looked at so many different individuals. Some I know personally, some are just celebrities. When they have 10th house with something in it, you can just, that's it, like, especially if they're famous, or if, even just I know them, like that's what they're doing. That's how they're coming across. That's the kind of the energies they're serving the public with, and public is responding well, but also the fact, like I said, that they're being given that energy. The chart is set up so they say, go there, go in that corner of your chart, i.e. career, public service, business, right? Go in there, because there is something going on in that part of your chart. And like in my case, or many people's case, if there is nothing, you may really have nothing necessarily to show for the world, but actually still be successful in your own right, because you'll still satisfy the three, or the other two, and maybe eventually the third one by transit. So the 10th house, when it's empty, it might seem really hard to bring something in because there's nothing in, but when the transit, like a big one, whether it's Saturn, Neptune, and that will happen, Saturn will happen at least twice. So maybe it's something that it's like, you're growing into, and then you become known for once that the Saturn gets in there. Or there is something that has been actually made and completed, and that's your gift to the world. And so, but yeah, Saturn, if it's not in so I'm not going to talk about it if it's in the 10th and the MC, because then it's the same. Just means then Saturnian stuff is going to be your gift to the world. But if Saturn is anywhere else, then what that means, that part of your chart, and also if it's the 10th house, but anywhere in the chart, it means it's your life's work. So that's the difference, where I find that people think of Saturn as success. And yes, Saturn is certainly the manifestor of the zodiac. It's the one that gives form to something that has been done over a longer period of time, like how any manifestation works. We have to keep feeding something in order for it to be given, be realized. And that is Saturn archetype at play, like a textbook. And that, which is why it's life's work. So wherever you have Saturn, please do not ever feel like you are too late, or you are taking too long, or because that's exactly how Saturn works. You're taking time, and it takes time because that's where that's a very dense part of your chart, and so like any density, whatever goes through it, it's taking time to get through because it's dense. It's like wading through treacle, right? But the flip side of that, or why that's wonderful, and why it gives us a sense of satisfaction, such a profound, like why Saturn such a gift, and why its gifts are the best, really, because they last, but also because, like anything, we are 3D beings. Yes, we have all other stuff that's like beyond the 3D. I get that, and yeah, sure, there are ways of being in touch with those other parts of us, absolutely, and in kind of tangible-ish ways. But there is nothing that beats like 3D, like a tactile, literal, physical form that it's like, just like, you can't deny it. It's like a lover, right? Lover, whoever you make love to, when they press on you, when they lie on you, in that merging, but in that boundaryful merging, there is such eros. But and obviously, it's an easy example when it's about, love making and sex. Then it's that we can all relate to being exciting, arousing, right? But eros is just a life, but also beauty. Let's maybe even take it there. There is a sense of pleasure, the greatest pleasure, the deepest pleasure of that weight of another person that you love on you, weight of their body, their full being. And it's not even just their body, because some energy of their soul and spirit and whatever you want to call it is also has some kind of weight to it, I believe. I'm not scientific being here, but so all of that, when it presses against you, there is nothing more satisfying. Think of food. If you are a celibate, think of food, like when this food goes through your throat while it's in the mouth, all that pressure, all the physicality of that action is what gives you the ultimate sense of pleasure. Just it's so satisfying, it's so pleasurable, it's so it's like there is nothing to make up for any, you don't need imagination. It's so real, right? So that's what I mean by the Saturn's gifts are most gorgeous gifts, because they're felt like that. You cannot deny them, and they're there. They have reached such weight that they will be there forever. And so wherever you have Saturn it's going to be something that's going to take time. It's going to take, and you're going to fail and fail and fail so many times, because ultimately wherever our Saturn is, we are ultimately learning to deal with our 3D reality. And it's full of laws and obstacles, which are also laws. But it's also about our own agency and will, which is elsewhere in our chart, but it's part of us. So that's Pluto, that's also Mars. So if you have your Saturn aspect in either of these two, then you'll have extra injection of the will, or the will, right, to then change these laws and obstacles. And so sometimes working with Saturn is about changing. Other times it's about accepting. And although I'll say, as far as any change goes, it has to be accepted first, what is, and then you move through. But ultimately, other times it's that acceptance might take longer and might be a phase that takes longer time. Is that the expression? Like it's with Pluto, Mars aspecting your Saturn, therefore the will and the agency of change is really like in direct communication with your Saturn. So therefore all these obstacles and laws of 3D reality, limitations of it, will be directly challenged by either Pluto or Mars if they're aspecting your Saturn. And therefore, from the moment of accepting and working with what is, and then transmuting into something else, that acceptance will be a month, a day, a year. Where with if you have no Pluto or Mars aspecting your Saturn, that period of acceptance, just sitting with what is and the limitation of it, might take 5 years. That's what I meant. Okay, I don't know how else to say it in English language. Okay, so to wrap up, these three things, your MC, your 10th house, and your Saturn, essentially we have 6 different things you could be, flavors, themes, qualities to your very unique sense of success. And they could be dispersed in 3 different areas of your chart with different planets aspecting it. Can you see how complex it gets? But ultimately the advice is stick to those 3 in the way they're presented, as I've just spoken. So if you have nothing in the 10th house, that might be the least of your concerns until there is a big transit, like in my case with Pluto in Aquarius. And the same with MC, until a big transit, it might still also not be something that you're concerned with. But what you will be concerned with every time is your Saturn, and it's your life's work. And so and it's your life's work. So meaning it's not something, it's what you're becoming a master of. So yes, I think that's what art is about. Like artists that become famous after posthumously, right after they die. It's almost like they have mastered something, but for the world to see it, it's essentially it just shows the slowness of the process of the realization of the mastery. whether by the master himself, or by the public receiving it, irrespective of the 10th house, just in terms of its mechanics of making something happen, and therefore making it a success. So we all have Saturn, and we all are working with our Saturn. Maybe not so much with our 10th and MC house. And I just want to say, so this will actually be a good segue to the next week, talk of depression, which I'm an expert on, where it's just giving ourselves grace and compassion as to that it takes time. With Saturn, it takes time, and it's not meant to be like a flying career. Again, it could be actually with your Saturn specifically, wherever you have it, it could be faster, it could be more concentrated in, if it's in the 10th house, absolutely will be a career, a very old-fashioned style career, recognized as this is your work, this is what you're known for, just that. A writer, a speaker, a singer, or whatever, right? I don't know, right? Accountant or something. But if it's not in your 10th house, and it's most of us, or many of us are like that, just remember that that's your life's work. That's going to take time, and it is where your success lies. You will succeed at your Saturn. You're already succeeding with it. You're already succeeding at your Saturn. It just doesn't look like how sort of Capricorn 10th house, Saturn in it, MC, if that was the chart, is telling us, because it's not. It's somewhere else. It's just not like that in your own chart. So just remember that, and hopefully this was helpful. Tell me about your successes and your Saturn and the other placements, and I'll see you next week on the topic of depression, if that's your bag.